Hi everybody, this is Propeller Boy, and today I'm bringing you a video in which I compare 5 popular different video game capture cards. These are capture cards that take HDMI inputs and capture your gameplay directly at a variety of different resolutions and frame rates. I started capturing video, my gameplay, in about 2008, and I started with a DVD recorder, believe it or not, and this is a time in which it predates YouTube even being able to show high-definition resolutions of their videos, and obviously in those 8 years, the technology has gone a very far way. And so I'm going to be talking about 5 cards. These are all cards that I have owned and used extensively. Let's see, we have the Avermedia Extremecap U3, the Blackmagic Intensity Extreme, the Hd60 by Elgato, the Game Capture HD, also by Elgato, and the Magewell Hdmi to USB dongle. So I'm going to talk to you today about my experiences with these 5 cards and their relative merits, pros and cons of each one, and I'll have some handy-dandy charts to bring up showing what I think about the pros and cons of each one of these cards, and you can ultimately make your decision. Now, one thing I do want to talk about very much is that YouTube now allows 60 frame per second videos to be uploaded. And so they look great. It's really fabulous to see that silky smooth gameplay. I'm going to be starting with capture cards, the 2 capture cards of these 5 that for all intents and purposes max out at 720p 60 frames per second as opposed to 1080p 60 frames per second. I'm going to start with the Elgato Game Capture HD. So we'll start with this, the Elgato Game Capture HD. This is a capture card that goes on sale at Amazon right now at $150 US. I've taken all of my prices for these from Amazon. It's about the size of a deck of cards, maybe a little bit bigger. It's got these nice rubber pads on the bottom to help it from keep it from sliding around, which is really nice. On the one hand, we have the HDMI in. Let's see if we can get on that. This is the HDMI in right here. That's where you plug your video game source. There's an AV in breakout cable for, this is for component cables and for RCA cables and such for systems that have, like retro systems or systems that use component cables, so that's a nice touch. And then on the other side, we have the USB out that goes into your computer, and the HDMI out as a pass-through that can go to your TV, so you don't need to have an HDMI split or anything. Pretty useful. So here's a list of good things about the Elgato Game Capture HD. It's very easy to use. It works very well for both recording video and streaming video, and particularly at a 720p 60 frame per second max out, it's actually not likely to really tax your computer if you're going to be both streaming and recording from this source at the same time. Works very well with OBS, which is what I use to stream. I like the fact that it does come with an AVI-in multi-cable to be able to record retro console gameplay. That's very nice as well. The Game Capture HD at $150 is not very expensive. That's great too. That's a great entry-level capture card, and I think that it's actually a wonderful value. Beyond that, the Game Capture HD works very well for both Mac and PC computers, and that's very much appreciated because I go between both, and it's very frustrating when things don't work with one platform or the other. Here are some of the things that I don't like very much about the Game Capture HD. First off, again, it maxes out from a high frame rate perspective at 720p 60 frames per second. That'll make it ideal, I suppose, for the Xbox 360 because Xbox 360 games are natively just 720p. The Game Capture HD is a USB 2.0 device, which means that it just doesn't have the bandwidth to be able to deliver the 1080p 60 frame per second video, nor does it have the capability of a really high bit rate when you're recording. And that's an important sticking point because if we're taking a look at overall quality, it'll be fine for streaming, but the maximum bit rate for recording is 30 megabits per second. And that's something that is not particularly great for archiving your video. Even at 720p, you'll see that that there are obviously better choices in terms of quality and higher bit rates for 720p 60 frame per second recording. So the recording quality at its maximum allowable bit rate is not necessarily all that great, although it does make for smaller file sizes. So next up we have the Blackmagic Intensity Extreme. Now I don't think this particular model actually exists anymore. I think it's been discontinued, but there are 2 models of Blackmagic Intensity devices, capture cards like this, called the Intensity Shuttle, Thunderbolt, and USB 3.0 versions. This one is a bit of a step up from those in that it's made out of machined aluminum. I think it has a couple of other features. It's got a great heft to it, a little bit bigger than the Game Capture HD. Let me see, can I actually... Not terrifically bigger, but focus, here we go, come on. Here's the Blackmagic, here's the Game Capture HD. So, you know, just a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker. If we take a look at just the one side where there are inputs and outputs, we have Thunderbolt here, which is great. Thunderbolt's a great way of transferring data very fast. I find it to be more reliable and better than USB 3.0 in my personal experience. I've never had any problems with Thunderbolt. This is HDMI in. This is where your video game source comes from. And then HDMI out. That's where it goes to your TV. So there is pass-through. And this is for the AV cables, S-Video, RCA, and composite cables. There's a breakout cable that comes with this to be able to capture sources that are not HDMI. Now here's a list of things that I think are very good about the Blackmagic Intensity series. This card was actually my preferred capture card for a very long time. And the reason why is because it's able to record at a very, very high bit rate. Because it records over USB 3.0 or Thunderbolt, there's just more data bandwidth, and therefore you can create higher quality, higher bitrate recordings. You can even create, if you're crazy, uncompressed video recordings if you have a disk that's fast enough. My laptop has a solid state drive, so it can handle it, but that's a little obscene. I usually use Apple ProRes codecs to be able to record my gameplay in 720p 60 frames per second. That was how I had such really great, fabulous looking footage from my Xbox 360. This device, of course, does have pass-through, so that's great. You don't need to buy an HDMI splitter. That's always nice. I've mentioned that I like Thunderbolt very much, but of course USB 3.0 is also fabulous and an up-to-date means of input and output. And so either way you go, you're going to have greater quality recordings because you can have better and larger file sizes. I record in Apple ProRes. It gives a great bitrate, very, very high, and it's easy to edit with. I use Apple Final Cut Pro, and its native compression is ProRes, and so it works in my video editor like a charm. Now, the disadvantages of this particular capture card is that, first off, it does not record at 1080p 60 frames per second. For all realistic purposes, it maxes out at 720p 60 frames per second, just like the Elgato Game Capture HD. Even worse, while the Game Capture HD will allow you to play in 60 frames per second at 1080p and record only at 30, the Blackmagic card will not allow you to do that. It has one of the stiffest pieces of software, Media Express, that come with any of these capture cards. And if you don't feed the exact resolution and frame rate into its preferences, it can be a real bear to even have it accept a signal. Now, once you have the signal, it'll look great, it'll record great, no problems, won't even break up the file, even if it gets to be 100 gigs or more. But the software is a bit of a pain, and again, if you use this card, it means you essentially cannot even game in 1080p, and your ceiling is 720p 60 frames per second. So now let's take a look at the capture cards that are capable of 60 frame per second video. And at 1080p, I should say. 1080p 60 frame per second video. And this is sort of the current generation of capture cards. These are the ones that you would use to be able to capture your Xbox One or your PS4 in great 60 frame per second 1080p glory. We're going to start with the AverMedia Extremecap U3. So this capture card is about the same size as the rest. It's a little bit bigger than, let's say, the Game Capture HD, but a little bit flatter. It has a nice sort of a LED here to be able to let you know when it's running, which is a nice feature. On the one side where there is input and output, basically what it is the USB 3.0 cable that connects to your computer. This is the HDMI input from your gaming console. And then here, there's also an AV breakout cable, which comes with it, again, to be able to capture video sources that are component or composite RCA, these sorts of things, for your retro consoles or for your inputs that are not HDMI. So the U3 Extremecap is a bit of an unusual bird. It's priced at $180, which is very reasonable. I think that that's definitely a positive thing to say about it. It can record 1080p video at 60 frames per second through its USB 3.0 interface, which is obviously great. For the capture cards that come with bundled software, the maximum bitrate that it's able to handle is 60 megabits per second, which is significantly higher than any of the competitors, save for one, which I'll get to. 60 megabits per second is going to mean that you're going to have some pretty good looking video coming from your Xbox One or your PS4 recording at 1080p 60 frames per second. Now here are the downsides to the Extremecap U3. I find that this is a very, very finicky capture card. I can't get it to work very well with OBS, so it's not particularly good for streaming. Beyond that, you need to be very careful before you purchase this card to make sure that you have a compatible USB 3.0 chipset. It doesn't matter if you just have any old USB 3.0 chipset, it just won't work with an awful lot of them. I believe it needs to be Renaissance or Intel chipset for your USB 3.0. You can check that in your system preferences. It seems to work better with my MacBook Pro than it does work with my PC laptop, which is a pretty decent PC laptop. But if I'm using it to even just, if I'm streaming using the preview window, then I still get garbage frames, I get, you know, garbled video, that sort of thing. And quite often while I'm recording, this is a big problem. There will be significant gaps because, for example, say in between Call of Duty rounds where the screen goes black for a couple seconds as you go back to the lobby, it interprets that as having no video signal and it'll sort of power off. And so sometimes there's just gaps in the recording and it takes a while for it to come back. So this is a very finicky thing. And the software that comes with it, Rec Central, is just trash. It quits out all the time. It's tough to sort of figure out. You don't have a whole lot of control over it. I really don't think that it's a particularly great piece of software. Now you can use the Extremecap U3 with Virtual Dub. You can use it with Amarek TV, other sort of like video capturing software, and you might have a bit more control over the codecs that you can use. In theory, it can record uncompressed video, but again, there are so many problems with the USB 3.0 chipset that when this thing works properly, you can get great looking video, but that's when it works, and it's not reliable for me no matter what setup I seem to use. So this is actually my least favorite of the upper tier capture cards. Next up we have the Elgato Hd60. This is the next generation version of the Game Capture HD. It's in many instances sort of an identical device. However, it is able to record at 1080p 60 frame per second videos. So currently the maximum that your Xbox One and your PS4 are able to put out, it can definitely handle it. It's a very slick looking device. It's got a nice LED line over the top of it, sort of telling you what status it's working at, which is very useful at a glance to see if it's recording or not. On the one side here we have is, let's see, this is I believe this is HDMI out, so we have pass-through, that's great. In this side we have HDMI in, this is from your gaming source. We have the USB 2.0 cable that goes to your computer, that's included. Now we don't have any more legacy cables or anything like that. This is essentially an HDMI device. You can only record HDMI video with it. However, there is an analog audio line in here. It's not a microphone line, it's an analog audio line. So here are the advantages of the Hd60. The Hd60 is priced at $180. And this is from Amazon, of course, as well, which is the same price as the U3. While the Extremecap U3 is able to record at a higher bit rate, ultimately, than the Hd60, the Hd60 comes bundled with, you download the software from Elgato. It works great on PC and Mac. It's very easy software to use. You can use it to stream, you can use it to record. It works great with OBS. It's very compatible. It does have pass-through, which is also fabulous. And so it's overall a really wonderful card. And for its price, probably I would say overall the best value for someone who is either starting out capturing video for YouTube, or even a more seasoned video maker who's looking for pretty decent quality at a high frame rate 1080p video. It's going to look pretty slick and is easy to work with. Now here are some of the disadvantages of the Hd60. The Hd60's maximum bitrate is 40 megabits per second, so that's 2/3 the overall value of the U3. Now granted, it's going to work an awful lot better than the U3, but it is still a USB 2.0 device, so it is limited to 40 megabits per second. What's even worse is while it says that it is compatible with Mac and PC, it's technically true. However, the Mac version doesn't come bundled with drivers, and so getting it to natively work on Mac OBS, currently you can't do it. You have to actually do a window capture of the preview window running the Game Capture HD software, so that's a bit of a drag. What's even worse is currently the Game Capture HD software that comes with the Elgato Hd60 you download from elgato.com. Maxes out at 30 megabits per second for Mac, so there's actually an even greater sort of difference between the max bitrate. It's 40 megabits for PC version, 30 megabits for Mac. And I talked to Elgato support about that, and they said they don't think that there are any plans in the near future to be able to give a firmware or a software update to be able to increase that. And believe me, those extra 10 megabits per second would actually make a significant bit of difference. So the quality is going to be not bad. It's certainly going to be better if you use it for a PC. I think that it's much better bang for your buck if you're using a PC, which realistically most of us are. I happen not to be, but for a lot of people, you will, the majority of people. It's a better value, but still, even at its maxed out, 40 megabits per second. So if you're looking for a supremely high quality video, then you're going to be handicapped a little bit with the Hd60. And last but certainly not least, we have the Magewell or the Magewell USB Capture HDMI. This is HDMI to USB 3.0. I don't recall exactly what the model number is on this. I think it's XI1000 or something like that. I'll probably, once I get to edit this video, I'll put the title of the model number here. But this is a device that's like the other the Blackmagic card that I have. It's made out of machined aluminum. It's pretty hefty. It's tiny. This is very small. Even with my second smallest card, which is the Hd60. Here's the Hd60, and here is the Magewell HDMI USB capture. Same thickness, but I would say that it's roughly half the size. It's tiny. Now this thing is a real beast. Its claim to fame is that it's truly plug and play. You plug in your HDMI in, and then you plug in your USB cord, it's the USB 3.0, into your computer, and without drivers, it will natively just accept the video and understand the video. It doesn't come with any bundled software. That's a bit of a disadvantage. I'll talk about that in a second, but you don't need any drivers. You basically take it out of the box and you plug it in, and that's basically it. And it can, it's so versatile. It can take any source and then scale it, change the frame rate, whatever you ask it to do. It all does it on board, so it saves your CPU quite a bit of a lot of taxing and effort to be able to process the video. It does it all in the dongle, so you basically just receive the video configuration that you want, making it optimal for capture. You can record uncompressed video with this thing, or you can fiddle around with the bitrate. So here are the benefits to this unit. It's very small, quite portable, and it works with any HDMI video signal. In fact, I believe that its maximum resolution surpasses 1080p video, but it natively accepts 1080p video at 60 frames per second. It's truly plug and play. It doesn't need any drivers, and so when you plug it in, your computer will recognize it. You can use it in OBS. It's very simple just to bring it up as an OBS source. In fact, most computers seem to recognize it as a webcam. That seems to be the way that it is. So it's very easy to use, universal in its compatibility, and of course, as I said before, the video is going to look great. Because it's scalable like this, and because a lot of that processing happens on this little dongle, it means that you can record very high capture qualities. In fact, I just did a test with this the other day, and I did an uncompressed video test. The video looked absolutely incredible, essentially just as it looked on my TV. Now, it's extraordinarily high bit rates, so I wouldn't really recommend that. However, again, like my Intensity card, what you can do is you can slap on, let's say, a ProRes codec, and you're good to go. Now, here are the disadvantages of this unit. First and foremost, it does not have HDMI pass-through, so if you want to be able to record and game on your TV, then you're going to need to buy an HDMI splitter. If you're doing so, I recommend this particular one. It's the View HD HDMI splitter. It's very cheap. I think it's about 30 bucks or so, maybe 40 bucks tops. The benefit to this is that it means you can, of course, use a device like this or the Extremecap U3 if you choose to. And that way you'll be able to have one HDMI source go to the capture card, one go to the TV, and there's no problem there. Beyond that, it means that it strips the HDCP copyright protection from the signal. So if you're, I know with PS3, PS4, I think that there are some here and there, particularly with the PS3, it's very hard to use HDMI capture because of the copyright protection. This is a way to get around that. So it's not necessarily a benefit, but you know, HDMI pass-through is certainly a nice thing to have, but it's not everything, and you're going to have to, if you want to record PS3, PS4, I believe, without any copyright protection problems, you're going to need this this HDMI splitter anyway. This device, because it doesn't come with any software, means that you have to fiddle around a little bit to get it to do exactly what you want in terms of recording. Plugging in OBS, whatever, very simple, always recognizes it, but getting it to work in Virtual Dub, it'll recognize it. Getting it to work in Amarek TV, it'll recognize it, but you have to fool around with the codecs and such and all the settings to make sure that you're getting the video exactly how it is. So it doesn't hold your hand, this device. It's also very expensive. It's the most expensive of all of these. It's $300. Now, that being said, I think this is the one that's able to deliver the most out of all of them, particularly because I don't actually need to have my hand held with regards to software, etc. My setup now is to record on my Mac using a tiny little program called Quickie and Quickier, and I'm able to get great results at a great bit rate that I'll show you. I'm again going to show a video capture quality test for all of these cards, but that is a disadvantage, the price, but it does offer an awful lot. So ultimately, which one of these cards wins? I think that for most people, probably the Hd60 is the best bet. It's easy to use, the software is intuitive. For many people, the cap of 40 megabits per second is high enough. Everybody's computer is going to be able to handle this thing, and it's plug and play as well. It can just take any resolution you throw at it, and it won't be finicky about it. You can as well record and stream at the same time, even if you're taking a look at 1080p 60 frame per second video. I've done it on my laptop, and laptops are not notoriously known for being particularly good at this sort of thing. So it's a really good value, and overall, it's on average, it's a really, really excellent card. My personal preferred card for recording and streaming now is the Magewell unit. However, it is, again, extremely expensive compared to the others. Generally speaking, at least 50% more expensive than the other cards. Beyond that, it can be a little tricky to figure out exactly how it works. And realistically speaking, if you are hung up on, you know, the best possible quality, then it's a card to get. But if you want to have good quality, smooth 1080p 60 frame per second video, I think that most people would go for the Elgato Hd60 as their preferred device. And for those of us who are a little bit pickier and willing to invest a little bit more time into figuring it out and getting, you know, better video results, then you can go with the Magewell device. So I hope this was useful. I'm going to be showing some video capture tests from these various devices, and if you have any questions about any of these cards, feel free to drop me a question in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. But I really hope this has been useful, because I know you have an awful lot of choices, and it's not particularly easy to know exactly which one to go for. So I hope this was illuminating. Thanks a lot.
Whatever it takes for mission success. UAV inbound. Friendly hunter-killer drone deployed. RCXD ready for deployment.
Down and clear.
Care package on standby.
Shooter down. Come down.
Stay low. Recon sortie heading this way. The ship looks intact.
Something tells me that's only because the Didact wanted it that way.
This is Lasky to UNSC Infinity. We're up to our next of bad guys down here. Does anyone read?
This is Sierra 117 of the UNSC forward under Dawn. We're on station, ready to assist.
Negative copy. Sounded like you said forward at the dawn coming in.
Signal's bouncing in and out. I can't clean it up.
Light up their friend.
I'm seeing numerous IFF tags below the tree line, painting the closest one on your HUD.
That scans the same one we saw. That scans the same one we saw.
I'm seeing numerous IFF tags below the tree.
That scans the same one we saw
I'm seeing numerous IFF tags below the tree.
on the Dawn.
Infinity to
Except
Commander
now,
Lasky.
the Didact's free to handle it personally.
Pelicans. Report in.
They must not have received his distress.
Tree line, painting the closest one on your HUD.
We've lost contact with your Pelicans. Report in.
They must not have received his distress call.
Tree line, painting the closest one on your HUD.
We've lost contact with your Pelicans. Report in.
They must not have received his distress call. Stress call.
Hey boomer buddies, give me a hug.